30,000 people. And an interesting fact is that the number of people in a California State Senate district is greater than the population of 5 US states. So the Senate districts are quite large. State senators serve 4-year terms, and every 2 years, half of the state senates are up for re-election. This year, 2024, the odd number districts are up for re-election. In California, redistricting occurred around the 2020 census, after the 2020 census, and completed at the end of 2021. The first election that reflected those district changes because of California redistricting was in 2022, when the even number districts came up for re-election. The current Tri-Valley California Senate district number is 7. It's an odd number. And this is the status of the California District 7 prior to redistricting. It comprises most of Contra Costa County and the eastern part of Alameda County. And it's represented by Steve Glazier, who's retiring after 2024. The current Central Valley California Senate District 5, and this is before redistricting again, comprises San Joaquin County and a portion of Stanislaus County. And it's represented currently by Susan Eggman, who is termed out after 2024. Now on to our new Senate district, which is California Senate District 5. And this is after redistricting, and this is what is on the election for this year. It comprises San Joaquin County and the Tri-Valley, including Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton, and Sunol. It is an open seat for the 2024 election. Steve Glazier is retiring. Susan Eggman is termed out. And that is one of the reasons that we wanted to have this forum today, because it is an open seat and it gives you an opportunity to learn more about the 3 candidates who are running for California Senate District 5. The redistricting of our California Senate Redistrict 5 will take effect, the current map, in January 2025. So that's it for me, and I'll turn it back to Helen.
Thanks, Karen. Why don't we start with Assemblyman Carlos Villapudua to start with his opening statement.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the Livermore Invisible for having us, having me jump on today. I apologize. I'm in my car. This is part of, my office right now as we're on this campaign trail. We're all over. I'm born and raised in San Joaquin County. I graduated from Sac State with a social service degree. I am a social worker at heart, even though now I'm a state legislator. I love what I'm doing. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about this race. I've been spending some time not knowing that I was going to be running for the Senate seat. I was actually spending some time in the Tri-Valley, especially in Pleasanton, just because I was looking at what they've done with their downtown. And as I brought in $23 million for a certain part of Stockton, it's about 5 blocks. I worked closely, I'm with their planning department. I'm one that if I see a wheel that it's working, I try not to reinvent the wheel. I try to figure out what can we do. We'll copy it and try to use it, and then try to figure out if there's any kinks that we need to figure out. And so I've been working in the Tri-Valley, getting to know folks, and I'm excited about this race. I mean, I came right after session with a lot of energy, and obviously you guys heard that we're there was a few changes, and here I am, running. I'm now been spending a lot of time trying to, spend some time in Livermore, Dublin, the whole Tri-Valley. It's not that it's new to me. I'm excited. And what I hear from folks there, they want to be part of the Central Valley. So I'm going to be the member that's going to try to make sure we merge this and bring back and listen to my community and what they need. And that's who I've been in the Central Valley. I've been working hard to bring funding and support for our universities. I've been working hard to bring, money to our ports, about 50 million there. And I know that we can do a lot more, to get folks off rail, into rail, out of their cars, because we know that a lot of we have 30,000 workers that come from the Central Valley to go over to the Bay Area, and I know that sometimes is our labor. So I want to make sure that when it comes to housing, that we can be able to either have housing for folks that are going to be moving there, or at least have the housing here. And I think that the rail is going to be instrumental on trying to get folks off our freeways and highways, and then making sure that we also have this, clean air environment for our community. So with that, thank you.
Time. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Shoemaker. Thank you, Carlos.
All right, hang on. All right, thank you for having me, and thank you for putting this on. I was born in Southern California in the San Pedro area, and I was raised by a father and mother that would be considered my grandparents, I guess, today. So I was kind of the tail end of their children. During that time, my father, with a 5th grade education, had a number of businesses, but he was also one of the largest popcorn distributors in the state of California. I got to learn a lot from my father, working with him, going to work with him, and learning about all the different people that make up this state, the variety of cultures that have come here. And in that, I learned about how to work hard. My father passed away when I was 10. When he passed away, I went and worked on my uncle's farm in South Dakota for 6 years, running the harvest from Texas to Canada. I learned to drive a truck, pulling a combine down the interstate at 12. Hard work was something I learned, and I'm very proud of, because I believe we need to have a work ethic. Where we are today, our education system is failing our children. Our state's failing the people of this state. Over-regulations have affected so many people that our food costs, our utilities, everything has skyrocketed. The idea that what makes up the Central Valley and also in the Tri-Valley, we need water. The water issue in the Tri-Valley right now and what they're going through is something that concerns me greatly. We need to start saving our water instead of sending it to the ocean. And these are issues that I'm really focused on, along with the crime situation that we're dealing with today, that we have no accountability, that we have no follow through, that we have businesses closing and leaving this state. I've worked very hard along with so many others, because it's not just me, but it's a lot of others that make up the area that we live in. I moved up to this area 35 years ago, and I just saw the beauty that is created up here in the Central Valley. I did travel over to this area because I was a truck driver also. I was a Teamster for a number of years, but then I bought my own truck and started my own trucking business. In all of these experiences through my life in construction and financial services, I met numerous people from all over. And in that, I see the same thing. We want something better for our children and for our families and what we do. And all I've seen is the state seeming to get more and more powerful in controlling our lives, taking more of what we work for, taking our money and utilizing it in areas that's detrimental. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Keith, is it possible to spotlight Congressman McNerney? Okay. Oh, at least you are unmuted, right?
Right.
All right.
Right.
So why don't we'll work on the technicalities, but could you go on with your opening statement, please?
Good. Thank you. Good afternoon. Like my fellow candidates, I thank the Livermore and Pleasanton for having this forum. It's a great opportunity to exchange ideas. I live in Pleasanton, California. We moved here in 1990. My three kids went through the public school system and graduated from University of California, Davis. I have a PhD in mathematics. I spent 20 some years developing renewable energy technology, specifically wind energy technology. Our technology is now to be seen in Altamont Pass and other parts of the world. I spent 16 years in the US House of Representatives and focusing on veterans issues. I was able to bring a hospital to San Joaquin County. That took a lot of work and a lot of cooperation with state, county and local officials to make that happen in the Veterans Affairs groups. I focused on transportation, water policy. I think all three of us are going to agree on that one. And technology, healthcare. And so I'm very proud of my accomplishments in Washington. I'm going to focus again on veterans issues, but I'm very excited about the Valley Link. It's very important to open up that corridor of transportation so the people that live in the Central Valley can commute more easily and with less time and stress to jobs that are here in the Bay Area. Now, I think bringing jobs to the Central Valley is very important. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to open up that, and that means improving the perception of public safety in the Valley. We need to make sure that schools are turning out students that can work and provide good service to these jobs. So there's a lot happening in Sacramento, and it's going to be a good term in 25 through 26 to really go after some of these issues. One of the things I'm very focused on is artificial intelligence. I was chair of the Artificial Intelligence Caucus in the House of Representatives. What I want to do is make sure that AI is beneficial to the residents of my district, of our state and our country and the world. And that's a big challenge. I'm also focused on energy policy. I'm a big proponent of developing fusion energy. I support nuclear energy. We need to move away from fossil fuels in a way that doesn't disrupt the economy, but does reduce carbon emissions so that our children, grandchildren, and successive generations can enjoy the same quality of environment on this earth that we have been given. And I think that we are borrowing the future from our children, and we want to be good stewards and handing down them the best that we possibly can. Thank you.
Time.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like our technical issues are still in existence. So we'll go ahead and start with our questions. We'll start with Mr. Shoemaker. What motivates you to run for this office?
What got me to look at this was the fact that where we're going. I'm tired of seeing my friends and others and businesses leave this state. I see the challenges that I think most of our legislatures have forgotten who they serve. I look at the fact that when I go to the grocery store or pay for utilities, our costs have just is astronomical. That my own children are looking at, my daughter graduated UCLA, my son graduated out of Sac State. He's a teacher, and my daughter's working in financial industries, and they're having challenges making their ends meet and to buy homes. I see the fact that the state and our crime and the fact that our children and what they're being taught and directed is detrimental to the future of this state. So my interest is, we need to change. We need a different direction that will bring prosperity back to this state instead of watching it leave this state. That's what got me in. So thank you. Oh, wow, I had a lot of time.
You did. Thank you. And Congressman McNerney?
Well, thank you again. Yes, I left the U.S. House of Representatives after 16 years for a number of reasons, but one of them was the bickering that made it so hard to get things done. I'm really proud of the many accomplishments I had, but it was getting more frustrating. And California, the legislature is a body that's known to be productive. The state Senate in particular, it's a small number of individuals. They work together. They actually produce legislation, and the idea of actually being able to produce ideas and legislation that will enhance our energy future, that will protect our water, as all three of us candidates want to do, make sure that education is moving in the right direction. These are things that highly motivate me to move forward and serve this district. You know, I've served in Congress all cities in this district except Livermore. So I understand the issues in the Tri-Valley. I understand the issues in the Valley. I was a congressional representative for 16 years there. So I've developed the relationships that I need to be able to work together to get things done. So I look forward to the opportunity, and I hope the voters will give me a chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assemblyman?
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited about this race. I am a member that has been able to reach out to both sides and work with all sides and come back with wins, not just have an idea. If you look at what we've done in the Central Valley, I'm a former county supervisor that worked hard to bring back our make sure that we put money into our ports, our Stockton port, and then our airport, but also into education. We brought 50 million into Stan State, which is here now expanding, and now kids don't have to go away to school. I want our kids to go to school in their hometown and be able to come here and live here and work here. And that's one thing, as a father of four, I want my daughters to come home. I want them to live here. I want them to work here. So wins in bringing jobs are something that I worked hard for. I work hard with folks that are in business, because not only did I, sign a check, but I wrote the check. I know how hard it is for folks that are right now trying to keep those doors open. I feel for them, and I've been a champion for them. And that's the one thing that I've been, why I'm spending time out in the Tri-Valley, because it isn't always one size fits all. I totally understand that, but I want to make sure that what you see here in San Joaquin County, that it's not just staff that you're going to see. You're going to see actually the members spending time there and understanding and getting to know what is it that they need, what is it that makes them move. So I have the energy. I'm ready. I have my sleeves rolled up and ready to go to town, ready to work.
Hi.
Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect timing. Thank you. All right, this time we'll start with the congressman. If elected, what will be your legislative priorities for CA District 5?
Well, I want to break those into two categories. First of all, there's issues that affect the district, such as education, homelessness, water policy. I mean, these are issues that affect everyone, creating good jobs. The homelessness issue is something that is affecting every community. We need affordable housing. We need to have the jobs that allow people to afford those houses when they're there. And we need to have sufficient mental health services to help people that are on the margins of society and aren't able to really pick themselves up without a little help. I think without any one of those three things, our Homelessness issue is going to continue. Water policy, we have to continue to protect our water, our delta. I know that Governor Brown wanted the twin tunnels. Governor Newsom wants a single tunnel. I'm going to oppose those. We cannot allow the delta to be drained for other purposes. That's our freshwater source. It's the biggest estuary in the west coast of the United States, and we need to protect it. Education, very important to work with folks that understand how to make education work. We've seen improvement, and we've seen a good school board elected in Stockton Unified, but we need a lot more work on that. Public safety. Listen, we've seen in East Palo Alto and Richmond, California, a significant decrease in crime. We need to look at how that happened and what we can do in District 5 to make that happen here. And so those are some of the things on the global stage. Of course, climate change, very important. Technology that benefits people and doesn't exacerbate the enormous divide of wealth and income in this country.
Unmute yourself.
Who's next?
Yes, you are. Once I unmuted myself.
So priorities are going to be education. I mean, for sure. I mean, again, being a father of four, you know, we need to make sure that we have not just the education, but the jobs that are going to back that up. And that's why I'm a strong proponent and been working hard to bring in the funding for Rail Link, Valley Link here, so that we can make sure that folks are traveling back and forth to get to their jobs, because the Central Valley is an area that, you know, it's already booming, and it's going to even boom even more, especially folks that I've heard and talked to the Tri-Valley that have businesses there, but they want businesses in the Central Valley, and some do. So we need to figure out our transportation business, and that's one thing that I've been working very, very hard. Also water. I mean, I was 1 out of 3 to sit on the governor's infrastructure committee, which, you know, one that we fought to protect and not allow our water to be taken out to Southern California. So I will continue to fight that. It is a priority for us. It's a priority for great drinking water. It's a priority for all of our ag community, because I have a humongous ag community here that we need to continue to support, and, you know, which will also create many, many jobs here. So creating jobs is going to be the other, you know, once we were finished with this Valley Link, you're going to see that people are going to want to bring their business here. We hear it already, and I want to make sure that happens here. And then housing, like I said, you know, is one that want to make sure that we make that affordable, that not just, you know, there's a lot of folks that are going over to the Bay Area, but that are working and building homes, but they cannot afford to buy their own.
Time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker.
All right. Could you repeat the question again for me real quick?
If elected, what will be your legislative priorities for District 5?
All right. Well, as the other two have mentioned, they keep talking about water. It's something I've been part of a number of groups on water in our area for quite some time. Looking at the twin tunnels, I used to go to the Capitol and speak about that and talk to a number of groups against the twin tunnels. And also now with the governor looking at trying to do this single tunnel nonsense is also bad. The idea that we've had some wonderful engineers over 20-something years ago came up with some plans that we could move water around without interfering with what the Delta does for this state and supplying the water needs for millions of people. At the same time, we need to be putting in reservoirs and more dams. We need to store the water that Mother Nature drops here and not send it to the ocean. Just like in the Tri-Valley, they're part of the water project, and they're looking at their water needs under this current situation. That's something we need to consider. But I think the top priorities are really the crime and the homeless issue in District 5. The state is the reason we have the homeless issue. The state has put all the regulations in and fiascos that have created this problem. Local control needs to be back locally so we can start handling these issues from a private standpoint. It seems the more the state gets into this issue, the more homeless we end up with. At the same time, how do you have affordable housing when regulations, permitting, and all the costs that the state has implemented and put on developers and builders to build the homes and apartments that we need have interfered with that and made and driven up the cost? I'm a guy that's worked all his life with his hands and worked out with the people all over. I know that private does better than government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will say, all of you have such great ideas. We might have some repetitive questions, but you can dig deeper into your answers when we get there. Okay, so we will start with the Assemblyman on this question. The newly designated California District 5 represents a wide spectrum of constituents. What do you view as the major issues challenging District 5, in particular, the Tri-Valley and Central Valley? And Assemblyman.
Thank you. Well, one that I just kind of somewhat touched on has it been with housing. You know, even though a lot of your labor that is there and working there cannot afford a home, and we're trying to figure out what is the fix. And one of the answers that I gave was that's why we're fighting hard to make sure that Valley Link is going to happen sooner than later. We have 30,000 cars that are traveling over the Altamont. And yeah, sometimes it is pollution, but I think that we need to also make sure that we start building and putting the infrastructure for, as we start moving to electrify, but we need to have the infrastructure. And that's why I'm also looking at hydrogen. We need to make sure, as we're getting this cargo that is going back and forth through the Tri-Valley, that, and as we start thinking about these expensive trucks that have to move the movements of goods in California that goes through the Tri-Valley all the way to our ports, we need to bring in hydrogen and make sure that they can use that and be able to afford it. A $450,000 rig that is going back and forth through the Tri-Valley is very expensive right now, and it's really kind of killing our local businesses right now. We're going to go off the cliff if we don't come up with something. All of our transportation right now is going to start heading to other states. Those are jobs. So the Tri-Valley is known for also having green space. So we got to protect that, we got to work hard to create and protect that. Just like the Central Valley, we have a lot of green space, and that's ag space. And we got to make sure how we're going to work and make that happen.
And Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you. I think when I look at this area, when I traveled it over 30 years ago, coming in through the Tri-Valley area and the old military base that was up here, and I see the development that has transpired and gone through, it just amazes me to see the development. But also at the same time, the issues that I think that will work together for both communities in the Central Valley and in the San Joaquin area and here are very much alike. You have a diverse group. You have a high-tech area, and yet you also have a farming area out of the Livermore in that area. And I think that all these areas, we can all work together and make our district better by stepping up and trying to keep government out of what local people should be able to make decisions on. When we talk about the Altamont and the traveling in this deal, the idea of putting in another train or something like that's going to drag out for years and years and turn into billions of dollars why not create a system of buses, maybe have 8 to 10 buses on a dedicated road that runs back and forth between the two, so they're not stopping and going, but look at alternatives to the same old thing. One, we need energy. We need to start producing power. It isn't going to happen because of the windmills in the Altamont. Those things are killing birds and animals all over the place. We need to go back to what works. We know nuclear power is one of those clean energy forms that would produce the energy that we need to be productive in our entire region, so our people aren't paying the outrageous rates that they're doing right now on both sides of the Altamont. But I do believe that because of the way we communicate and those people in the Livermore area, especially in our Lodi area that grow grapes, I'm with the farming community. I've been with them. So thank you. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you. And Congressman.
Well, thank you for the question. Transportation has got to be one of our biggest regional issues in District 5. I did spend a day commuting from Stockton to Palo Alto with one of our veterans who has to go there on a monthly basis. The trip to Palo Alto, we left before 8. It took 4 hours. He had a half an hour appointment, and then we had to drive more than 4 hours back in traffic. That's unacceptable. And so I'm going to throw a lot of my weight behind transportation. I want to make sure that the Valley Link has the resources to develop an efficient public transportation system. I was well known throughout my period consistently supporting public transportation, whether it was in the RTD district, the Regional Transit District of San Joaquin, or the Transportation District in Contra Costa or Alameda County. That's a good investment. And these agencies have been very efficient and are highly rated. The other issue, I think, is agriculture. If we look at Lodi, they have a world-renowned grape and wine production, specifically Zinfandel, which our family loves. And they've developed rules for sustainable grape growing called the Lodi Rules. But Livermore Valley also has a tremendous and growing reputation for grape production. We want to make sure that we just enhance that reputation. Grape growing is a terrific occupation. It employs a lot of people, and it makes all of us happy. So those are the two areas I think I'd focus in specifically on the region of Senate District 5.
Okay, thank you. I've been asked to repeat that the chat is disabled, so we can give our time to our candidates. So if you have questions, we will be putting up their websites at the end, so you can ask them directly what your questions are. All right, so we are moving on. Mr. Shoemaker, you're first up this one. How do you communicate with your constituents and solicit their feedback, especially as we've discussed, it's a large district?
Well, thank you. What I'm looking at is, I looked at this district because as we were talking, so, to go from one end to the other takes almost 2 hours. It's about an hour and 45 minutes to go from one end to the other. So the only way to do that is I believe we'd have to have a couple offices, one in this side, one over in that area. But at the same time, our staff has to be focused on service. The staff needs to be focused on listening to the constituents' concerns and issues that they're dealing with. I have had businesses myself dealing with the public, and I know the number one thing to maintain good service is good communication with those that you're working with, those that you are selling to and listening to maintain a good business relationship. I believe that's what we have to do here also. We have to follow through because there's so many constituents that are dealing with government regulations and other government intrusion into their lives that we need to be able to help them go through that, to get through it or get to the answers they need. So I definitely I believe I will be in the district more than I will be in Sacramento. I will only be in Sacramento, absolutely necessary to carry on the votes and discuss the things that are going on and build the relationships that will help to drive legislation that will help our district, but also help the people of our district. But that starts at the ground level for us communicating with them personally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Congressman.
Well, thank you. Communications is absolutely key. I served, as I mentioned, 16 years in the House of Representatives. My first district before the 2011 redistricting included most of the Tri-Valley, included Morgan Hill, included Contra Costa County, Brentwood, and most of San Joaquin County. Communicating is absolutely key. I made it really clear to my staff that I had an open door policy. If someone wanted to talk to me, I wanted to talk to them. We went out and did what amounted to town hall meetings throughout the district on a regular basis. And those were very communicative. I had advisory groups on veterans issues, on ag issues, on public safety, on education. I want to hear from people in my district what they think about the state of California in our district. And you get a lot of really good ideas if you listen to people. And that's exactly what I did and exactly what I intend to do. And so I guess that wraps it up. I don't need a whole 2 minutes to expand farther than that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assemblyman.
Yeah, so I was a staffer. I worked for a county supervisor, and I answered all the phones, and I always would try to get my boss to all these meetings, but he would always tell me, hey, you're going, and no disrespect to him, he's still every time he calls, I still jump. What I learned was this, is that when I got in office, is that no disrespect to a staffer, but they don't want to see a staffer. They want to see you. They want to see you out there and involved. And I could cross the street from my house and be in Lodi, or I cross the street, I'm in Stockton. The majority of folks in Tracy or Mountain House, they always question me. They're like, hey, where are you in Stockton? Why are you in Lodi? They think I live in Tracy, or they think I'm in Mountain House. It's just because of how much time I put myself out there. I like to be the person that they talk to. Yes, I have staff. Yes, staff is involved. Yes, staff is responding back to emails and phone calls, but I will be the member that you will see. I look forward to having an office there. I look forward to hiring from the Tri-Valley someone that knows, the neck of the woods of that too, so that they're helpful for me and they're involved. They feel the pulse. They hear everything that's going on. And then also being involved, any events that are out there, that is important. That's how you really get to know your community. And that's where we do now as an assembly member. We go to a lot of events that are out there. We support all the nonprofits, all the chamber events. We're involved. We love to be part of that. And that's what we, once elected, what we're going to be doing in the Tri-Valley.
Okay, thank you. Congressman, you're first up for this one. How will you coordinate and cooperate with the assembly members representing the constituents of Senate District 5?
Well, absolutely, and that's a good question. The Assembly and the Senate have to work together to get things done. My first priority is going to be finding the open lanes in the state Senate. What areas are not already taken that are absolutely needed in terms of California, in terms of our district, and then identifying what assembly members are well known and are focused on those areas to develop those relationships. It's important to work not only across the state house between the Senate and the Assembly, but also across the aisle. When I was in the Congress, I had a reputation for working across the aisle. I worked on water policy issues, on electric hydropower issues, on grid innovation, on artificial intelligence, on Wi-Fi issues, and that's the way it should be. And that's the way I intend to work in Sacramento. I'll work across the aisle, I'll work across the Capitol, and get the things done that are going to make a difference. And I think that's basically how it has to be done.
Thank you. And Assemblyman,
Can you repeat the question again?
of course. How will you coordinate and cooperate with the Assembly members representing the constituents of Senate District 5?
Thank you. Well, working closely. I mean, one thing that you have to do here is build that relationship. You're not just yourself as a senator or the assembly member, staff too. Staff needs to work together, and they do. They talk, and I just want to make sure that our staff is going to be really involved. And then as a problem solver, I also work across the aisle. I'm part of a group called the Problem Solvers, where not just in District 13 or District 5, I need to look and visit other parts of the state to build those relationships. In order for us to get things done, you got to have those relationships, not just in the AD5 district, but in the surrounding areas. So making sure that you're taking your visits, you have an open door policy, that you're also listening to their concerns and listening to their issues, and listening to their policy and what they want done, because it's, you have to have the votes, you have to have the support. So supporting my colleagues is going to be very important in the surrounding areas of 85 to get things done in our district. That's how I'm going to build that relationship.
Okay, great, thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker.
All right, thank you. What I'm looking at is the idea that, one, we all agree, you have to build relationships. But in building those relationships, you don't want to compromise on your values and your principles that you're standing for. And that's not a hard thing to do, because when people do know where you stand, there's not a question of what you're going to do. But we can start working on those areas that we can make agreements to and work on. I have relationships with people all over the state. I have family all over this state. I travel around this state. And so I've been involved a long time. And I do know, no matter what, even when we disagree, we have to find a way to agree on the important issues that affect this district, but not just the district, because we affect the state. We affect everybody. And it comes down to our businesses, our homes, our families, our schools, everything. So that is a prime important issue that you have to be able to build relationships. And I've been blessed to be able to do that and do it honestly with people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're starting with Assemblyman now.
Okay.
The State Budget Office has projected a large budget deficit. If elected, what do you believe is driving the shortfall, and what will you specifically cut to help solve the deficit?
That is a question that we have all been trying to figure out, because there's several different numbers. The one that we keep hearing about more is a $68 billion deficit that we're going through. We're having those, as we speak now, we're having those budget talks as a caucus and trying to figure out what we're going to be doing. I, as a member, will be looking at, to try to save and make sure that we continue to drive jobs, that we continue to make sure that we're going to put a pause on stuff that we don't have ready. We need to make sure that jobs in the economy is going to be thriving. And that's what worries me, why I traveled back and forth from the port of Oakland to the port of Southern California, because that's something that we know that a lot of our folks that live in the Central Valley and the Tri-Valley, that's going to affect them, the movements of goods. So we got to continue to make sure that we're going to create jobs, but we're also going to look at our reserves. We need to make sure that if that we need to start having those talks, that rainy day fund that we put aside for this specific dates that we're going through, for this specific time that we're going through. And so we have the rainy day fund, but we haven't released exactly when we're going to go through this and when we're going to use it. But at the end of the day is to make sure that we're thriving, that we're creating jobs, and we're still moving forward to put people back to work. So that's where we're going to make sure that when it comes to cutting jobs, I don't want to cut people's jobs. I don't want to cut services around the state. We're actually providing a lot of good work and a lot of good services in our community.
Time.
Thank you. Mr. Shoemaker.
All right. Can you repeat that question just real quick, please?
The state budget office has projected a large budget deficit. If elected, what do you believe is driving the shortfall? And what would you specifically cut to solve it?
Well, one, the state of California and the current legislature and the governor are the reason we have the budget deficit we have. Two, we've driven out many businesses out of the state that had a very large tax base. And then we're losing a lot of people that are leaving the state because of the regulations and the other things that the state legislature has done. One, we're funding, we don't have an income problem, we have a spending problem. And that spending problem is ballooned out of control. We are now trying to get more people that are working to pay more in taxes and other things, which then will drive more people to leave the state. We need to be business friendly. We need to be our citizens friendly and stop funding things that are coming in through the illegal alien program where we're funding medical and all these other things at the backs of working Californians. I am a worker. I have worked my life, and I remember seeing my money that I'm earning and the state taking it, and they aren't spending it wisely. That needs to stop. We're at a point now that this state's going to implode because these guys keep spending our money. Two, that programs have to be looked at what are constitutional. What is the state really responsible for, and not this living in fantasy land all the time that we can fund everything under the sun. I believe each one of us can be responsible for our own budgets, and we need to take care of our families. Our families need to be first. To bring back this state, we need to change those policies, and that's what I'll work on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Congressman.
Well, thank you. The budget process in California is largely to blame. It's dependent on profits from corporations, and it's depending on personal income taxes. Now, 2 years ago, there was a $90 billion surplus. This year, there's a $65 billion deficit. So that tells you that there's this amazing cycle of surplus and deficit in California budgets. So clearly the system needs to be evened out. I don't know exactly how that's going to happen, but we need to look at how taxes are generated in California, how tax revenues are generated in other states, and come to some decisions about how to even that out. We don't want to have a situation where folks that work for the state of California, teachers, for example, education gets a good chunk of the California budget, public safety. We don't want to see those people fear for their jobs every 5 years or every 3 years. That needs to be evened out. So that's going to have to be a priority. How do we even that out? And I don't want to see a lot of the good programs we have cut, but we need to streamline how money is spent in this California. And that means looking at some of the requirements that are involved in new construction. We need to look at some of the administration costs in public agencies. And I think if we are diligent and work across party lines, one of the things that really would make this country and this state work better is if we worked across party lines if we took both the so-called liberal and the so-called conservative viewpoints into consideration when making decisions. And that's kind of the approach I've taken, and that's the approach I will continue to take in Sacramento.
Thank you. And you have almost answered the next question, but we will go on. Okay, Mr. Shoemaker, we're beginning with you this time. If elected, what issues affecting Californians do you see as potentially receiving bipartisan support in the state Senate?
Well, I think crime and education are the biggest ones that will have across the board issues. I believe that the majority of people in the state are tired to see the lawlessness that's going on. I believe many people that thought they were voting for good bills have realized that they were misworded and sold to them wrongly. And they're willing to start looking at the fact that those need to be changed and we need to put law and order back in place. We need to support our law enforcement to the extent that we quit trying to tell them that we're going to defund them. We need to stand up and realize that in our society today, there is right and wrong. And when you do wrong, there needs to be accountability and either something done that they can pay back, or there needs to be another way of handling them. At the same time, our education system, when we watching the amount of millions and billions of dollars being spent on our education system and our children are falling farther and farther behind, that's an issue that I believe many people on both sides of the fence are looking at and going, what can we do to change that and bring it back to where we are educating our children to, one, love their state, love the country they're born in, and realize they are blessed to be here. And at the same time, learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, and hopefully some geography so they know where they actually are if GPS goes down. So the thing is when I look at these things, what we're dealing with is those are the subjects I believe we can cross party lines and work together. And then as with water for our farming and for our people, this state receives enough water in the worst dry year that if we saved it, we would supply all the needs of every citizen and every business and all our farmers. Those are key issues that affect us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good time.
I actually looked at it.
All right, so Assemblyman.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Healthcare. We need to start producing our own here. I mean, folks don't want to come to the Central Valley, or maybe they want to stick up in areas where they're gonna get paid more. So I think we need to make sure when it comes to education that we're producing our own doctors, our own nurses here. That's one where we're hurting, especially in the rural areas, that we need to make sure that we're working with to try to produce more of our kids that go into education. The second thing, it is public safety. It's number one right now. It's a hot issue. And last year was an example of how bipartisan things were done. I was the first to introduce a fentanyl bill that got passed unanimous from both sides, from all sides of the aisle, because fentanyl is we can't ignore it. It's killing our community. You're seeing it in your community, and it goes into the next portion of this. Prop 47. We need to figure out a fix. Number one in polling, the Central Valley got hit the hardest. Second was Tri-Valley. If we don't fix this problem, and I was the first member this year to turn in to try to figure out how do we get all of the stakeholders at the table. We need to make sure that we're getting all the stakeholders at the table, because when we talk about revenue for this state, Prop 47, the folks that are committing the crime, we're losing so much revenue because of that. And until you research it and find out how much money we have lost, why businesses are leaving or shutting down, and why insurances are not, now trying to keep our businesses and supporting them is because of that. So we need to fix that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Congressman.
Well, thank you. When it comes to cooperation, I want to talk about climate. The climate change is here. It's a threat, and we need to act on that. And I think that's beginning to be understood across all sections of society. There may be some deniers still, but those are in a minority now. And California leads the nation. We can develop policies. California already has a cap and trade law that's in effect and is looked at by the rest of the country. So we need to look at how to cooperate on that. Does that mean focusing on reducing carbon emissions? Does it mean on producing nuclear energy or other forms, solar, wind energy? How are we going to do this in a way that provides low cost, stable, reliable electricity for California? I think that's something that we can cooperate on. Another issue that I hope we see cooperation on is women's rights. Freedom of choice, I think, is a critical issue. People that care about it deeply in California, we have to find common ground on that issue. No matter what happens in Washington or what happens in another state, women need to know that their rights are going to be protected in California. Another issue, I think, hopefully we can get some agreement on is water. There's going to be disagreements on water across sectional regions rather than across party regions, party boundaries, and I think that's something that, as I think my other candidates have indicated, we need to work together to find a solution to that. There's enough water if we use it wisely. If we encourage farmers to use their water widely and encourage them to do so, I think we'll be able to meet our water needs in plenty years and in drought years.
Okay, thank you. I swear, Congressman, I think you've seen our questions because that's a great segue into our next question. Okay, Assemblyman, part question. Access to water is a concern for all Californians. You've all mentioned it many times. Do you support building the Central Valley water conveyance to move water around the Delta and directly to the pumps in Tracy, moving water to the south? First part, I think you've all mentioned that. And part two, do you have any additional ideas to help improve the water situation in the state? Assemblyman.
Yeah, no, like I mentioned earlier, I was selected 1 out of 3 to work on the governor's infrastructure. And one that I fought the governor very, very hard was our tunnels. I mean, it was a battle for 2 weeks, and we weren't getting anywhere. But one thing that we fought hard, we had some really good help because we brought in to make sure that we were going to protect our endangered species. And as governor's staff was really working hard to try to take some of that away. And I didn't budge. We didn't budge. In fact, we worked hard to make sure, there's so many different layers. They wanted to change it from a 7-member board on the Delta to a 5. We didn't budge there, so we're going to continue to make sure that we're going to continue those battles and those fights. It's going to be many, many years, that we're going to continue to hear about this. But at the end of the day, this is important for both AD5, not just for ag. And I know all of my ag community here who I fight and meet with. I meet with all the almond growers, the grape growers, our farming community, our folks that I meet with day in, day out, just to hear their concerns and why we don't just feed this state, we feed the world. That's why it's so important for us. But I also have a water bond that it's a 2-year bond, and it's going to be coming up this year. And that is to protect our levees, to make sure that we're not having this runoff water, that we're capturing that water and building groundwater protection and making sure that we're not just looking at our water for the next 5 years. We're looking at how we're going to produce and protect and save our water for the next 50, 10 years out.
Time.
Thank you. Congressman.
Thank you. During my 16 years in Congress, I organized a coalition of my colleagues, George Miller, John Garamendi, Mark Desane, Doris Matsui, to fight the Governor Brown's Twin Tunnel project and make sure that the Delta is safe. That coalition continued, and we were very successful in our efforts to hold off that project and similar projects. As the Assembly member indicated, San Joaquin County has a capacity for 1 million acre-feet of groundwater storage. We need to take advantage of that kind of resource. We need to give incentives for farmers to be as efficient with water as they possibly can. And we need to make sure that our cities are conservative, that water is recycled. We need to develop a certain amount of desalination technology and implement that technology. Livermore Labs is ahead of the curve on that. They have technology that is very cost effective in that chore. There are cities in Southern California that have a significant water storage capability, just a city. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to use water wisely, to conserve water, and to save water for when we have drought years. So that's a challenge. It may not be cheap, but it doesn't need to break us. And if we follow common sense, science-based approach, I think we can get there at a reasonable cost and a reasonable time.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you. When it comes to this water issue, we've been arguing about it for years. Under the original water project, there was 3 phases. Older Brown put the initial one together and started it. His son stopped the 2nd phase and the 3rd. We need to get back to one thing: storing water, saving our water, telling our farmers to save more water. They're already doing that. But there's also a detriment we've learned, especially in the grape industry and in farming, and that is with the drip irrigation systems that have saved millions of gallons of water. It also has affected the aquifer that we all rely on in the Central Valley, one, to keep the water pressure in the ground from allowing the ocean water to come up through the delta. So you need that back pressure. We need farmers to be able to flood their lands to recharge those aquifers naturally. But we also have other programs that can be used, because water is life and we need it. And we grow the food that this nation eats. But we also have people that have been in office that have tried to brown the Central Valley for other purposes. We have the ability to move water. We have the ability to save water. But when it also comes to our environment, we cannot be deceived in the idea that we have to have all this water for endangered species, when in fact, down in the Bay Area, they're dumping raw sewage into the Bay, and the Bay needs to be flushed out with our fresh drinking water. These are issues that need to be brought out and stopped. We need to save our water, and our farmers and all the people of this state can benefit from that. Also, what was mentioned, desalination. It's unfortunate that many cities that have attempted to have been stopped. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, sort of the second part of that. Congressman, we're starting with you. How do you propose solving or improving the PFAS contamination in groundwater in the Tri-Valley?
Well, PFAS is certainly a controversial and important issue. I met with water board, elected water board officials, and they've informed me how serious the issue is in the Tri-Valley. I know that wells have been closed down because of PFAS contamination. So the first thing is to, if you're in a hole, stop digging. I mean, we need to stop PFAS contamination, and that means a lot of the contamination comes from firefighting foams, from military industrial equipment. So that needs to be banned and reduced. And then cleaning up means understanding the science. What technique can be used to take PFAS contamination out of water? Can that be done efficiently? Can it be done in a way that provides sufficient drinking water from wells that are contaminated? And we need to find new sources of water that haven't been contaminated. Does that mean wells? It's going to mean, yes, it's going to mean some wells. It's going to mean the water district making arrangements with Contra Costa County to have fresh water. But this is a serious issue. The answers aren't all out there yet, but I think if we take a concerted effort and use a science-based approach, we'll be able to get through that without too much expense in the near future.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker, PFAS.
Yeah.
We do.
All right. I only learned about this just a short while ago, maybe even a month ago. I was talking to some water board people also, and I have meetings coming up in the next few weeks to talk to them to learn a little bit more about this. But what I do, I want to bring some of my experience. When I had a trucking business in the 80s, we used to haul hazardous waste, and that waste was quite a bit. There was a lot of different things, but what was interesting is the amount of technologies that have been invented and brought to the forefront in these areas, enzymes and other forms that can remove and clean up a lot of these contaminants that are there. You know, since the Tri-Valley had the military base and Livermore, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's gone on out here. And I believe we can work together in looking at that and coming up with a solution that one will be cost effective, but at the same time, this goes back to our water storage issue of being able to move water to an area that's going to need it until we can come up with the solutions. But I still need to learn a little bit more about this to make a really good answer. So thank you.
Thank you. And the Assemblyman.
Yes, this is very important to Tri-Valley. I know this is a very touchy subject. It's a landmine that you just can't come here and grandstand. That's one thing that I've learned, even with our water issues, that I'll have folks, you know, want to talk about water and grandstand. And until you really know the history, the background, the root of this problem, it's very hard to sit there and come up and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. What I'm going to rely on is data. I'm going to make sure that I'm working with the folks that have been at the table, that all of the folks that have been, you know, that have been sitting at the table and coming up with the best solutions. And at the end of the day, it's going to be, you know, drinking water is life. Drinking water is about our hygiene. Drinking water is what keeps us motivated, and that's why I've been a fighter for our Delta water, our tunnels, no tunnels. I mean, in fighting our tunnels, but making sure that we have the best drinking water. So at the end of the day, it's going to cost us. It's going to be money. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to bring the funding in. And this is why it's so important that I love to be a problem solver. I love to sit at the table and bring the folks to the table and bring the stakeholders together and not just keep talking about it. Let's get things done. I'm about wins. Let's make sure that we're going to get things and move the ball, not sit here 5-10 years and nothing's done. And that's what you're going to get as a state senator, to make sure that our staff, myself, working with all of the folks that are the stakeholders, to make sure that we're going to get this issue handled. But we got to have the data, we got to have the experts, and that's what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's going to cost us some money.
Hey, thank you. Okay, starting with Mr. Shoemaker. And you have discussed this a bit. Traffic, including trucks, is a major problem on our freeways all over probably California. What are your thoughts, plans to address these challenges?
I didn't catch the first part.
Traffic is a problem, is a
Oh,
major
traffic,
problem.
okay.
Traffic.
Okay. Yes. Well, this is where it comes back to our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is designed for vehicles, trucks, and cars. We live in such a dispersed area in this state that that's the infrastructure. 2, trucks. I come from trucking. I was a Teamster. I was a business owner and owning trucking. I know what that is. The state has put so many regulations on trucking. I'm surprised anybody's still in business today in this state. But the bottom line is everything that every single one of us eat, drink, live in, sleep in, or drive came by a truck. And we need to look at the fact that the trucking industry is a vital link in this state to keeping it functioning. And 2, the idea that they're going to keep regulating them. I was part of a group that was looking into the biodiesel blending of diesel to clean up diesel. And then the state changed its blending program back in 09, 010, from 100% down to, I think it's 10% or something like that, 10 or 15. And I was curious. I go, why? And he said, well, we can't detect the particulate matter. Well, biodiesel is a green deal. It doesn't have the same particulate matter as petroleum based. But yet at the same time, all the energy that's put into our trucks to clean them up actually makes them dirtier, because now they have to use twice the fuel that they used to have to use when they were traveling. So the issue comes down to our infrastructure. We need to start working on our infrastructure, improving it, and building lanes that trucks can utilize separate from cars, so that they can get the goods to where they need to go the most efficient way. That's my approach.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Assemblyman.
Thank you. Great question. Tracy Mountain House area has been growing a lot. Even Lathrop have been growing up a lot. And there's plans to build more houses here. But one thing that I listen to is my community, right? Because of the traffic impacts. You have to make sure that you're listening to that, because, I remember being in one part of Tracy where it would take maybe 20 minutes. Now it's taking 45 minutes to get from one area to the other. And that's also happening, around the state and also in the Tri-Valley. We got to protect that. We got to pay really close attention. And that's why it's so important that Valley Link is going to be it is the #1 priority as policy, and to fund it. And because we want to make sure that we're getting folks off of their cars and looking at urban living. I love what Pleasanton did. They built some homes because people can go there, they can live there, they can shop there. They don't necessarily always have to use their cars. They can get on BART, they can get on, it's not just about getting on rail, but rail moves us. We're so behind. You look at certain parts of Southern California, and I point that out a lot. And that we need to make sure that we're supporting our rail. And then secondly, that's why I put $50 million in our port of Stockton. We could start moving our cargo here. We don't need to go all the way to the Bay Area and pick up cargo. Our truckers can come here. We can send those ships through to our ports. And that's why I put that money in, is to make sure that we're taking those trucks off the freeway and they're picking it up here in the Central Valley, and then exporting that to other parts of the state. So that's what I'm going to continue to do to make sure that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Congressman.
Thank you. The traffic is a notorious problem. Anyone that's commuted from the Central Valley to the Bay Area for a job understands well how painful and difficult that is, how much it increases pollution, takes away from family life. So we need to deal with this. When I was first elected, I got behind a program at the Port of Stockton called the Marine Highway, in which they bought some big cranes and encouraged ships to bring containers from Oakland or San Francisco through the Delta to Stockton to be unloaded and put on trucks in Stockton, and that would reduce traffic considerably. For reasons that were difficult to understand, that program sort of fizzled out, but I think that's the kind of thinking that we're going to need. In addition, we're going to need rail. We're going to need the Valley Link, and that can be used. It should be used not only for personal transportation, but could be used for container transportation as well. And those are the kind of things we need to do. I've been opposed to trucks that have more than that are pulling more than one trailer in California. When you drive up to Oregon, you see trucks carrying three trailers behind them. I think that's dangerous, and I think we can improve transportation with common sense rules. Mr. Shoemaker mentioned that buses could be used. There's already the RTD program in place that could be expanded. Again, that's a program I put significant federal dollars into, and I think we need to look at all those options. How can we use limited state funds to encourage local transportation districts to make the investments that will reduce traffic congestion in our region, and as Senate District 5.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and you've all alluded to this, I believe. We're starting out with the Assemblyman. Valley Link is to provide a public transit from the Central Valley to BART in Dublin. Do you support it? And if so, how do you plan to get funding for it?
It's a great question. That's been number one of making sure it is one of my number one priorities to make that happen. When I came in as a legislator, I was trying to figure out, okay, what are going to be our top 2, top 3. Transportation was number 1. Valley Link, I know it was a lot of talk, a lot of stuff there were people discussing it, but I didn't really see a lot of movement. But now we've been really working hard to put the money in, working with our federal counterparts to make sure that they are supporting it. This is not just a Tri-Valley Bay Area project. This is a Central Valley project. And so I've been going to Council of Governments to speak on this because I need them to also take part to funding it. I've also been supporting the hydrogen plant that's going to help the Valley Link. That's going to be built here in Tracy. So we're about 30 million short. I've already been working on trying to make sure that again, Council of Governments are going to be able to help support this. Our county board, our county here in San Joaquin County, to take part of it, and then work together with the state and the federal to make that happen. So very, very much a huge supporter, a huge fighter for it, and it's going to happen. We're going to make sure that it happens soon.
Okay, thank you. Congressman.
Well, thank you. The Valley Link has come up a number of times here, and we're all showing enthusiasm. My record is clear on this. I've been very generous to the point of my abilities in the federal government to bring back money for public transportation. I can continue, and I will continue to fight for Valley Link. Providing alternatives to car transportation between the Valley and the Bay Area is absolutely essential. We can't even begin to think of the Central Valley being prosperous if people don't have access to good, fast, reliable transportation. And that's what Valley Link promises. And to be clear, I've been a big supporter of the ACE train service that goes between the Valley and the Silicon Valley. And that's going to be operating in conjunction with Valley Link. So I want to continue to support that. But I will focus on bringing state dollars back. My understanding is that Valley Link is halfway funded. And so we need to pull out all the stops, working with our federal representatives, with whom I have very close working relationships, working with the state budget and understanding how the state appropriations is going to work as part of the deal. You don't just go in there and ask for money. You have to understand how the system works. You have to have staffers that know how to make it work, and you have to be persistent. It took It took what 15, 16 years to get the hospital, the Veterans Hospital built in French Camp. And so we have to be persistent in our determination to bring home as much state money and federal money as possible to augment local resources and local sources of funding for the Valley Link.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker.
All right, thank you. I'm all in favor of these transportation things that make sense. As I said, I look at the situation with trains going over the Altamont. I don't see that happening, but I do see the idea that if we could put buses on there, that's something that could be done literally right now. We could start working on dedicated lanes going over and bringing them there. But there's something I brought up years ago at a project in Southern California when they were reestablishing all of those the red cars and the transportation system down there that I did work on, contracted for. And what fascinated me was I always told the guys at these meetings, I go, has not anybody been to Disneyland? And have you not ridden on a monorail? And what fascinated me is we're always looking at building all these other things for trains. I love trains, but you know what? Trains are 160, 170-year-old technology. We could be putting monorails and that type of transportation right down the center of a freeway and not having to get any environmental impact studies done because it's already done for the freeway. I look at the idea that if we're going to do things, let's do things that are advancing our ability and our freedom for us to make the choices that we want to make and move forward without taxing us to death and utilizing money that we don't have. But we do have the ability, and we have some very smart people in this state that are very capable of coming up with some great transportation alternatives. And we need to start looking at those instead of looking back. We need to look forward. So I support the idea of being able to move people efficiently and effectively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, out of transportation for a minute. Money in politics. This is going to begin with the congressman. Do you think money in politics is a serious problem? And if so, what would you do if elected state senator?
Money in politics is not only a serious problem, it is the most serious problem we're facing as a nation. As a member of Congress, I proposed constitutional amendments just about every one of my 8 terms in Congress that would eliminate PAC funding, would not allow people to raise more money from outside of their districts than they were inside of their district, and limit self-funders to a certain amount over so that they can't just buy their ways into election. We need to move in California as aggressively as possible in making sure that, for example, money does not come from out of state to fund ballot initiatives. We've seen that happen in the past, and the result is ballot initiatives that were passed that are not in the state's interest and not in the interest of the people of the state. This is an issue I feel very strongly about, and I will look at all the rules that we can in order to limit how funding is done in the state, and that means looking at public financing if that's an option. Can we limit? Can we produce systems that help pay for the election without so much private money going into these things, without so much corporate money going into these elections? This is a serious problem. For example, if you want to fight against gun violence, then if you put your head up on that, the gun lobby is going to come in with a lot of money to shoot you down in the next election. If you want to put forward reasonable immigration reform, you're going to get shot down in the primary election. If you want to fight against climate change, you're going to get shot down, or you're going to get aimed at and fired upon by certain interests. So this is a very important issue. I feel very strongly about it. I'm going to work as hard as I can to do something about it.
Thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker.
All right. Money in politics. Well, we've always had money in politics since this nation was created. The biggest challenge, and I'm glad to hear that there's it sounds like some support here, that probably a lot of the money that's being generated through public employee unions and things like that, that influence the candidates and running for office to keep funding and refunding their own people. The challenge is our ability to have the freedom to make the choice of who we're going to give and not give. I just believe that where we are right now is we need to just have absolute clarity of who donates what to who. And that needs to be out there so everybody can see it, who's giving you money. Because the bigger problem is to even get this thing through, you're going to try to get a lot of people involved in it. And the interests have too much interest and allowing it to change. And so it's a big issue. I just feel we need to have honest elections where people know every candidate, like what you guys are doing here tonight, in allowing us to present where we are in these issues. And in that, they can make choices of who's donating to us and who isn't. Because other than that, there's always a way that somebody will receive funds outside of whatever government tries to do. That's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we lost Carlos, but I believe he's trying to get back in. Is that true, Keith?
Oh.
Technology is so great. Anyway, while we're waiting for him to work his way back in, we'll save that question for him and remember it. Well, he's the first one up for the next one too. Okay, so for Jim, I'm going to put you, Mr. Shoemaker, going to put you right back on. This, I'm combining two questions. What strategies would you propose to? Oh, wait a minute, we just got him. Let's let him finish.
Carlos?
Someone needs to unmute themselves.
There we go. There we go. Somehow, I wasn't paying attention to my battery here. So to answer your question on funding campaigns, correct? Is that it? Can you hear me?
Helen, unmute.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I was not allowed to unmute for a few minutes there. Yes.
Okay.
The question is money in politics. Is it a serious
Money in politics. Yeah,
And
let me tell you how it works up here in Sacramento. There's two sides. You're either union, all union, or you're all business. So either side, one side's going to say, well, the other side's taking money. Both sides are going to take money. I tell you, that's just the way it is. Whoever is a union, whoever the union picks, they're going to fund that. They're going to put IEs. Whoever the business person is, they're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to just tell you the truth. That's the way it works. You work hard to get things done up here, and the folks that like you are going to support you, but you're not bought. You're not sitting here. I've gone against folks that have supported me. I tell them that I can't do it. I can't do this. I bleed my district. I am going to fight for my district no matter what, if someone's going to support me. I have those hard, intelligent, sit down conversations of why I cannot support them. But this campaign, we talked about this earlier. The minute that you get elected, you start fundraising, especially on the assembly. On the Senate, you'll have more time because you can pick and choose. you know, that you got to be at an event, but it is, hello? Can you hear me?
Time.
I was
Thank you.
time apparently. I don't see the time. All right, we had a lot more questions, but we're gonna skip through to the last question and then we're going to ask you for a final statement. So we're going to talk about you. And I totally lost track of, I think this will be Congressman first. What have been the proudest achievements and growth-inducing disappointments in your career?
Well, thank you. When I first got elected, my son is a veteran, and he told me the thing I'd be the most proud of when I left office was what I've done for my veterans, for our veterans, and I was able to get a bill passed into law to treat veterans with traumatic brain injuries. I was able to build a veterans hospital, almost finished, near French Camp, near Stockton. I'd say those are my two proudest moments. I'm also proud of the work we've done on healthcare, passing what the so-called Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, has provided healthcare to really millions and millions of Americans. My last session in Congress, we were able to pass the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, these are massive investments in America's future and America's infrastructure to help regain control and dominance of the microchip manufacturing industry in the United States of America. Those are great achievements. I'm very proud of that. I chaired the Artificial Intelligence Caucus, in which case we are moving now forward to helping ensure beneficial use of artificial intelligence in this country. And some of the most disappointing moments were, as I mentioned, the fact that we weren't able to get anything done on campaign finance reform, the fact that we weren't able to do anything at all whatsoever to reduce gun violence because of the NRA and the resistance of that group to any kind of rational self-regulation of gun ownership and violence. I think those are the two biggest frustrations for my time in Congress.
Okay, great, thank you. Assemblyman, do you remember the question?
Oh, so I'll start off with, it sounds like we're bragging here, but I'm not. I love the fact that I'm a member that works with all aisles. I do. I do not look at parties. I don't look at what hat they wear. I look at trying to figure out how do we get these wins. That is the number one thing that I'm about. Even my staff, I am on them. I do not want them working on 10 different issues. I want them to finish number 1, 2, and 3. Where are you? Let's accomplish things, not just be a talker. I love the fact that, going back to take part on working on water, and we fought and we won this year. This is going to be an ongoing battle. We get it. But that was because of relationships. That's because you work with folks from all sides of the aisle. I worked with folks that were from from down south that understand why we fight for water, that we don't just feed the folks here. We everything that they're touching and putting in their mouth or touching is because of water. And we need to continue to fight that. Our VA hospital, I'm so excited about that we took part of that. And that VA hospital is not just for San Joaquin County. That is for folks that are in the Tri-Valley, folks that are up in the hills. That is going to be great and big for our veterans. Second thing is making sure that we continue to put our money back in education, that we need to make sure, not just college, but we also need to make sure that we're putting money back, that I'm proud that I put money in vocational training. Not everyone's going to go to college. We got to make sure that we are training in the trades, the folks that are building and that they are educated and got the proper training. The 50 million that we put into our infrastructure for our ports, fentanyl bill, that that's exactly what you talk about, reaching over the aisle to work with both counterparts. That's what I'm proud of.
Thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker. So your proudest achievements and your growth-inducing disappointments. Could you unmute, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Well, thank you. I look back at the future of what has transpired over the many years, and I haven't been in an elected office, but what I have done is as a volunteer helping in many areas of this state, wherever I live, being involved and understanding what is happening in the region and where I am and in the organizations that I've belonged to. And in that, I can go back to where environmentally working to remove MTBE from the gasoline. We were successful at getting that accomplished in the state of California, which was contaminating our wells and our water and many other areas. And that was done in the late 90s, but it took us many years and a lot of people's involvement. I've worked with the supervisors of our county to help our farmers and others that are being intruded upon by government and had good outcomes from that. I think the worst part that I've seen that's happened is what's happened to our families and our children in this state. I see what's happened to our veterans of this state because of the state policies here. I've worked with many organizations and trying to support veterans organizations also. But when I see veterans being put on the back burner and illegal aliens brought in and they receiving all the benefits and our veterans left out on the street and left wanting, it tears me up. When I see the fact that my brother-in-law and uncles and cousins, all who fought many wars and received the Silver Star and helped in many areas, and see them having to go to Palo Alto and all over to veterans hospitals to get the care they needed. I am glad we finally have this. I am upset that it took so long, especially with the connections that some of our elected officials had. Should have been done sooner, but we can move forward and we're ready to work hard for this district and accomplish the work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Now for final statements, which, all right, let's start with Assemblyman, your final statement.
You do have 3 minutes, gentlemen.
Thank you. I apologize that I'm in my car and because I'm multitasking. My final statement is this, is that I am working very, very hard. I've been spending a lot of time in the Tri-Valley to get to learn and more. It's not something that I'm just going to learn. I have been spending time there. I need to learn. The Tri-Valley and the Central Valley have a lot in common, and we need to make sure how we merge that together. And I'm going to be the person that's there, spending the time, being active, working with our staff that are from the Tri-Valley to make sure that gets heard at the Capitol. I have the relationships there. I've been working to build those relationships there. And that's what you need. You need someone that's going to be running, that has the energy and ready to get this ball moving. I love what I'm doing. It's a lot of work, and you got to really spend the time. And is it tiring? Yes, it is. But guess what? I sit and I get in my Honda and I drive up to the Tri-Valley, and because I love that community. It has its concerns, it's got its issues, but let me tell you, it's a beautiful community. They want better schools, they want safer streets, they want everything that the Central Valley wants too. So I look forward to working with you all. I look forward to taking part of those tough decisions that we all have to make. And I'm asking for your support and your endorsement for this state assembly, a state Senate seat coming. This election is going to be here really, really quick. So hopefully people know to get out and vote, because it's around the corner.
Thank you very much. And it's actually 2 minutes for your final statements. And so Congressman.
Well, thank you, Helen, for hosting this event, and thank you for Livermore for Indivisible for hosting it. I can say without qualification, it's been the honor and a privilege of my life to represent the people of Congressional District 9 and Congressional District 11 throughout my 16 years in Congress. When I first got to Congress, I didn't know a whole lot about how to get things done. It takes time. I'm sure Sacramento is significantly different than Washington, but we were able to get a lot done. And that includes hiring the best staff that I possibly can that know how to get things done and follow direction. It means keeping open lines of communication between me and my staff and between my office and the district. And it means working across the aisle. California leads the country and it leads the nation and the world. So what we do in California has a large impact. And so I will use, if I am elected, the privilege of representing this district to enact laws that will benefit our district, will benefit our nation and our world. And that means, again, working with people that I may not agree with, working diligently on issues that are complicated. It means focusing on the issues that I can make a difference with, and understanding how the system in Sacramento works, pulling the levers in order to get those things done. And so I will ask for your support. I ask for your vote on March 5th, and I pledge that I will do my very best to serve you in the same vein that I've served my congressional districts in the last 16 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Shoemaker. If you'll unmute.
There we go. I'm sorry about that. Thank you to your group, Helen, for putting this on. And thank you for this time. I want to say I'm here and I'm running to serve the people. I believe our government has let us down. I believe the ones that have been in office have shown their disdain for the people. I see what they've done. I've seen what's been going on, and it's upset me. I've got involved because we need to make a change. We need to put hope back into the people of this district and our community and our state. I see the fact that I don't want to see D5, Senate District 5, become San Francisco, where people are fleeing. The homeless problem is skyrocketed. Crime is out of control, all because of government regulations and government infusion into the area. When I see the fact that what's happened in the Central Valley, in the Stockton area, and over in your area, we have areas, both of our areas making up this district are beautiful and have so much potential. But if we keep going down this path, many people are going to leave and run away from this state. We need to, one, protect our children and get education back on track of educating and not indoctrinating. We need to go back against crime. We need to change what we need to at the state level to allow law enforcement to do the job that they are there to do, to protect the citizens. And two, because law enforcement, I believe the majority of those people in those seats who are doing that job are honest and forthright, wanting to protect their citizens. So at the same time, we need to make sure that our state is business friendly and it's friendly to those that are here, so they'll stay here, be productive, be effective, and taking and raising our children so they'll want to stay here and make California great and make California wonderful again, because where we are is not a good place. And I care for our people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to all the candidates for coming. And something we neglected to say, because we usually do nonpartisan forums, is that Mr. Shoemaker will be found on the Republican ballot, and Congressman McNerney and Assemblyman Villapudua will be on the Democratic ballot. Thank you so much for coming. Thank everyone for joining us. I'd like to invite you to our next our next Livermore Indivisible meeting on February 11th, and we will. Oh, thank you, Karen. I forgot that. Here's how to get more information. But we will be discussing what's on your ballot on February 11th. We will be early to avoid the Super Bowl on the off chance that the 49ers are in it. And it'll be recorded, but also in person in the library. Okay. And thank you again, candidates, for coming and sharing your views with us.